Today, we're going over my theory on how you can buy a car and either make money or sell it for exactly what you bought it for. Now, this is just a theory. Obviously, it's not financial advice, but let's get into it. Number one comes down to the Ferrari 360. So let's have a look. So we veer over to the Ferrari 360. Now, why is that? Well, this kind of falls into my theory, and in fact, Mark McCann has a very similar theory. You want to buy a car in which the individuals that grew up with it on their wall as poster cars finally can afford the car. So, where is that indication? Well, I would say that is 10 to 20 years old, 15 being the sweet spot. And you want to make sure you get something that was desirable and that was something people really, really lusted after. Now, number two is the boring one. Now, that's price. So, as any good salesperson will always tell you, the money that you make is on what you buy it for, not what you sell it for. And effectively, the key way of doing this is making sure you know your market values. Now, it's easy enough to go on Auto Trader and look at the lowest and the highest priced and think, well, that's your ballpark. But it's really important to look at auction sites. Collecting cars is a great one. You can look on there and see what kind of your real market value is if you were to sell it tomorrow. Further to that, although I've made videos on it and I feel like they offer you a very low price, We Buy Any Car probably offers you effectively what is trade price on the vehicle that you're purchasing. So if you go in and you know the trade price, you know what you could sell it for at auction, and you know what it will go for at a dealer, you're not going to go too far wrong. Just make sure it's the car for you though. Don't buy just on price. Make sure that it is a good car and that the service history is appropriate. Now, the next one's pretty self-explanatory, but to me, that is making sure that you're buying a HPI clear car. Now, the easiest way to do that is by doing a HPI check. Might be worth £20 at the time, but it could save you thousands. It tells you if the car's ever been written off, and sometimes even shows photos. Further to that, you have the ability to see photos of that crash if it's happened, or if it's gone through an auction site. You can see the mileage, so you can see any discrepancies. You can then sometimes check the MOT history on there, so you can see if it's had any major work or any fails previously. And you can see a lot more, like finance, if there's any finance still owing on the car, or if it's ever been stolen. So it's an absolute must. It's about £20, but as I said, it could save you an awful lot in the future. Another key decision maker for me is making sure that the car is rare or desired. So a really key example of this could be something like the 458 or the 360. Production was pretty low, meaning that overall desirability is pretty high, and then depending on spec on that, say Rosso Corsa with a black leather interior, that's again pretty desirable, and then going into the 360 with a gated manual, which then makes it one of 352. Means effectively that the pool people can buy from is a lot smaller, and if they are desired, effectively the prices should, in theory, reflect that. A great example of this was the Porsche 911 I had. It was a 997 in, I believe it's Carrera or Carrara white. And in essence, I bought that car for 25 grand. I drove it for 2 or 3 years and I had finance on that car. I was able to then settle the finance and sold the car for 34 grand. And the reason for that, in essence, I think comes down to two of the factors we spoke about, or even three. One, it was a HPI clear car and it was a really good car. It had great service history. Two, it was actually one of those cars that I bought relatively a low price. Again, making sure the price point was correct. Three was the ability that I did a HPI check and everything came back clear. Four, it was between 10 and 20 years old, falling in that perfect sweet spot. So I feel there were quite a lot of people out there that had maybe come into some money or got to the point where they were earning enough that they were able to get into a car like that, and therefore prices started to rise. One of the key things about it though is you can look online, there's lots of 997 911s, but there's very few with the factory aero kit. And I think that comes into a kind of sweet spot. Again, you've got individuals that are growing up looking and lusting after the 997 911, but the ones that bought them new necessarily weren't the type of person to have a wing on it and front aero. What's now happened is once those cars have become rare and desirable, individuals have now grown up, myself as an example, at 26, and thought, yeah, 911's cool, but I want one that looks like a GT3 and I can't afford a GT3 yet. So in essence, by having the factory aero kit, you're not copying, you're not trying to make yourself look like something you're not, but you're getting an incredible car with a wing. And relatively, I don't feel the person who was buying a 2007 911 was going to be the type of person that bought a wing on the car. Probably going to be the guy that drives it to their banking or accountancy job and effectively uses it every day. So those are my 5 points for buying a car and how I think you can either make money or lose very little. And in essence, I think one of the key things comes down to the age of the car. 10 to 20 years seems to have been my sweet spot. The 997, 911, the 360, and hopefully what's coming next all fall into that category. Now, of course, there's the common sense stuff like HPI checks and making sure that car is good and true to itself. They're very important. One of the key things you can also do, depending on what car you're buying, a Porsche is a great example, you can actually pay Porsche £200 to get them to go fully through the car. So that, in essence, that £200 could end up finding you something that could have cost you thousands, or you know you're getting a good car. Caveat to that though, is they are very thorough. They might pick up on very small, minute things that you would never have seen. So don't take it as the car's awful, take it as you know everything that could go wrong, that might go wrong, and that will go wrong. So that's everything for today. I want to just say a massive thank you to all of those that have subscribed. Please keep me going on this journey, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks, bye-bye.
Tell me you're just